So first things first, Jordan, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you, man?
I'm alright, thanks. So, you have an album, Foreigner. But where I want to begin is, because I've written down lines from your songs here and there, so I want to kind of weave my way through your story.
You're gonna tackle my lyrics, all right then? Sure thing.
So I want to begin with the title track, Foreigner, misunderstood at an early age. What was it like growing up where you did?
It was interesting because we were one of maybe 4 black families on our like kind of within the vicinity that I remember, and French was my first language, so misunderstood is me not speaking English like the rest of the other kids. So anytime I would say something to someone, they'd give me this look like, oh, he's like not from around here, let's stay away. And I was like, damn, like all I want is to, like, you know, play out on the street with you guys. That's literally all I'm asking for. So yeah, I guess that's where it kind of stems from.
Because I think you were only 1 when you moved.
Yeah, like 1 in a couple of months.
So did you, obviously you felt that distance with your other classmates, but what was it like, kind of, because you grew up pretty much in London. So, so what was that like? Because you kind of, you speak English well and all that stuff, but then there was this distance with people. It
was an interesting kind of journey to tackle, for sure. So like, it took me 2.5 months to learn English fluently. And then once I learned English, that's kind of all I would speak in. So even when my mum would speak French to me, I would respond back in English, and then she'd get really pissy with me. She'd be like, hey, no, I was speaking to you in French, so respond to me in French. Because she'd always say, you know, like, outside of this house, you can be as, you know, English or as British as you want, but inside my home, you are Congolese, and I don't want you to forget that. And that's definitely something I've instilled in the way that I kind of carry myself, like a kind of meeting of 2 worlds.
Right. And especially those early kind of formative years, what role did music play, not only in kind of finding your identity, but also kind of, like you say, that being in 2 worlds, on the one...
Huge, actually, because I would, so say for example, when you go around to friends' house for like play dates and stuff, they'd be playing, like, that's what I call like 80 something or like 90 something. But then when I go home, it's always traditional Congolese music. So I'd be kind of hearing 2 different languages in different homes and just kind of bobbing and weaving in between the 2.
Because your mother was, I believe, quite into music.
Yeah, big time.
Did she ever make music herself?
As far as I know, no. She still doesn't know how to whistle. So she'll do this thing where she's like, hoo, 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 instead of like whistling normally. I'm just like, it doesn't count, but I'll let you off. And she likes to sing from time to time. And
then I believe you kind of got into the soul music from her, and then you discovered grime, and
it was
that side yourself.
Yeah, so I was kind of lucky because my mum had a great taste in music herself. So whatever she would listen to, I would listen to. So whatever she was playing on the radio or put on TV, or like had a CD of, that's what we would just play in the house. So she had like a Whitney Houston CD that I remember. There was a Shaka Khan CD, and there was a Michael Jackson's Greatest Hits CD. And then whenever I couldn't find those CDs, I would just put on the music channels on like Sky back then, and then it would just be switching between like MTV Base or The Box, and then that's how I kind of discovered the music that she wouldn't let me listen to when she was in the room. But I remember when I was like really, really young, I would wake up like way past my bedtime, like maybe 10:30, 11, which when you're a kid feels like super late, but now you're an adult, it's like, oh, it's like, you know, 6 p.m. So I'd wake up and like go into the living room and just turn the TV on like really, really quiet and like shut the door and just watch all the kind of really disgusting like R&B and like rap videos and like grime videos I wasn't allowed to watch. Then that I was only allowed to watch whenever I went over to like my cousins' houses. And that's kind of how I discovered, you know, R&B and rap and hip hop and grime, because my mum wouldn't let me listen to it, and I'm just like, well, what's so bad about it? And I would listen to it. I'm like, this is great. Like, what are you playing at? This is great. I don't see any harm in like what's going on. But I guess because she understood the lyrical content of what was going on in those songs, but I didn't at that age. I was just like, this sounds great. Like, this is what I'm living for. So.
And especially at that time, like you said, well, being misunderstood and kind of having to feel out your place in kind of London. I believe you started writing poems quite early, and then it evolved into music. So what was that? Was that kind of an outlet of some of those thoughts?
In a way, yes. I would just write stupid poems about like stupid shit all the time. I remember writing a poem about a bunch of flowers that I saw on the street one day, and I was just like, no one's ever gonna read this. Like, what am I doing? But I would always perform the poems to my mum, and we had a camcorder, like a VHS camcorder at the time, and they were like, you know, the brand new high-tech piece of technology. I think this was before the DVD player came out, and I think she has footage of me performing one of my quote-unquote raps to her. Until this day, I swear to God, if that footage ever goes anywhere, I will lose my mind because it is awful. I basically stole a rap that was already on TV that someone had already written and like played it off as my own, but she didn't know because it was some of the music that she wouldn't let me listen to. So I was just like, I think I can get away with this. And then it kind of turned from like poetry to rap to then singing. But I would always find myself singing anyways, but I would just do it quietly so that no one could hear. And then as you know, as time grew on, my voice essentially grew louder. And
I'm not sure, I don't think this is a line in the lyric, but it was a line from a lyric on the album, but it was a line from the bio, but you hated being the center of attention early on.
Yeah, I couldn't, I used to be like a really kind of shy kid, especially at school. There was this one time where there was like a show and tell, and the teacher was like up at the assembly hall, and she was like, does anyone have anything like they want to perform or like say? And like most people just like bring in like toys that they had that they got given for like birthdays, or like a book that they were reading that they got from like the Scholastics fair. But like I remember putting my hand up one day, and was like, you know what? And then put my hand down immediately. I was like, no, what am I doing? What am I doing? She was like, did you put your hand up? I was like, no, miss. She was like, yes, you did. Come up here. I was like, no. And I could feel myself like tensing up like this. I was like, what have I done? What have I done? What have I done? And then I eventually got up, and this was around the time my sister was born. I think she was maybe 4 or 5 months at the time. And my stepdad got her this like singing turtle. I think his name was Frank. And he used to like press his claw, and he would sing this like really stupid song. But I memorized the song because I just liked how it sounded. And whenever the batteries would die, my sister would press it and it wouldn't sing, and then she'd like start to cry, so someone in the house would have to start singing it. So I just learnt it as a way of like keeping her calm, and that's what I performed. And it made no sense to anyone, but I did it with my eyes closed for the entire thing. Then I opened my eyes, just like sat down straight away. Didn't bother to listen to any of the applause, any of the comments. Just like tunnel vision, sat down. I was like, and I couldn't stand being the center of attention. But kind of now I'm in a place where I'm lucky that I get to choose where I am the center of attention and how much attention I want.
Sure.
Because unwanted attention is always weird. But like when you feel as though that your music is something that you want people to hear and you have a message to be heard, I think that's when you should be like, okay, cool, gather around. Here's a story to tell.
Because was that a kind of a step to get to, or a kind of a realization you had to make? Because I believe you were in Germany and there was a show, and I think you referred to this as kind of changing hats.
Yeah, that was Howden Pop in 2018.
Because just quickly, for my own structure. But was that kind of for you? Because obviously you've been performing by then. But was that once you become the center of attention in a way, you want it to be something that you're proud of? So and then you want yourself to be there, to represent yourself. So was that a turning point in terms of kind of being the center of attention?
In a way, yeah. So the way I describe it was in how I used to dress with the kind of, you know, black shoes and the trousers and the white shirt and then the kind of trilby fedora hats, I kind of felt as though people wouldn't think that I was Jordan MacKampa unless I was wearing that outfit, unless I was presenting myself in that kind of zip-up suit. And then I was playing Howden Pop, and I was about to put on like the kind of final piece of my outfit. I was just like, you know what, I don't think I want to wear shoes. It's like really hot, don't want to walk around in shoes all day. So I just put on the trainers. I was like, okay, cool, this feels comfortable. And then I was like, oh, what hat am I going to wear on stage? And I called my manager. I was like, hey, I know people are going to be taking photos today and stuff, but like, I just kind of want to wear this hat that I've been wearing kind of consistently instead of changing from one into the other, because I don't kind of feel comfortable in it. Like, what do you think? She was like, well, you know, it's up to you. I get it. Like the weather kind of dictates what you're kind of dressing up as now. So I kind of went from like wearing kind of traditional trilby and fedora hats to just like beanies like this, and kind of dressed down, kind of more casual shirts. Still keeping the trousers, but like wearing trainers instead of shoes, and just like little changes like that really helped me feel a bit more comfortable in my own skin. And I think playing that festival and feeling so comfortable on stage, because I was always really conscious of whenever I would take off my guitar to change guitars, my hat would fall off. And that was something that really, really worried me, because then people would think like, oh, it's like, you know, he's not Jordan MacKampa anymore, he's just like some regular kid off the street. And I'm just like, no, I'm still here. Like, so having a hat that I didn't have to worry about falling off, and even if it did, I wouldn't be like stressed about it, kind of relieved a lot of weight from my shoulders.
Sure. And
just helped me feel more comfortable being myself on stage, because I didn't feel as though I was pretending to be anyone else, or feel as though people wouldn't accept me for who I was without the hat.
Well, I find this interesting because one thing I occasionally hear from artists is that they kind of invent their stage persona just to get them onto stage, just to get that confidence. So once you've kind of shed this persona and it was just you, in your case the confidence just grew, I suppose.
Yeah. So it was funny because I was never, even I think maybe until I was like maybe 13, 14, I didn't really get any kind of stage fright in the early stages of my career, which is a real blessing, because even up until now I don't feel any kind of nerves or anxiety before going on stage. I'm just like, cool, let's get this show on the road, and I feel this like excitement, and I kind of feel for like other musicians who get really anxious before going on stage, but to me I'm just like, you know, this is a kind of once in a lifetime show. Like this day isn't gonna come around again. Just like make the most of the opportunity you have in front of you and just like play your heart out. And I just kind of carried that energy with me through every tour that I've done, every show that I've done, and it just kind of gives me this kind of stage presence without putting on a front in a way.
Right. And while we were talking about poems and you're hoping it will never see the light of day, but what was then a song maybe you wrote early on, and maybe the first one that you were proud of, or the first kind of that you thought, well, now I'm getting to something?
There was a performance that I did at the Belgrade Theatre in Coventry in like 2011, and there was a local youth centre literally next door to my house where they had been given a slot to perform at the theatre. And I think they picked maybe 6 acts, and I put myself forward to just like, you know, play a song. I would have done maybe a cover or like an original song, but I decided to like write a song instead. And the song was called Angel Like You. And I'd kind of written it about this girl that I had a crush on at school. And I don't think she knows till this day that I wrote this song about her. And thank God, because the song was awful. Thank God she has no idea. But I think that was the first time that I performed in front of like a big crowd of people that I wanted to kind of perform to, in a way, because it was like a crowd of like 800 people, and up until that point I'd only ever played to maybe 10, 15 here and there, like odd slots here and there and stuff. But no, that was a game changer for me, and I was like, holy shit, like this is something I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And I think that's when it clicked. And then I would just try and put myself on every kind of stage since then.
So if we look at it, that was 2011. If we're in 2020 right now, so those immediate years after, let's say the 5 years after, that's kind of paying your dues and kind of figuring out this whole musical landscape. What are maybe one or two of the most important things that you learned in that period of time?
If you mess up a lyric, keep going. Don't start the song again. That's definitely one thing. And you know, there's a couple of things. It's like silly things, which is like the basics, but they've been useful. So like, there's make sure your batteries in your guitar aren't dead, otherwise you can't plug anything in. There's always make sure you do a vocal warm up. Even if you're only playing like 2 songs, make sure that your vocals are at least warm enough to get you through those 2 songs. And realize that it's okay to say no. Because there's been a lot of times where I've forced myself to say yes to something even though it didn't make me happy. And by forcing myself to say yes, it just made me unhappier. Because I was doing what other people wanted me to do, not what I wanted to do.
And is that then kind of, especially when you're a starting musician, is that kind of out of some sort of fear of if we don't do this, it might not happen? Or?
Yeah, there's definitely, when you're starting out, there's definitely like a fear of missing out that you get. And there was one time where we got offered to play a festival in the UK, and I was in my last, I think, it was in my last year of university, and I had a choir performance on the same day, on the same weekend as this festival. And I got a call from my manager saying, hey, you've been offered a slot here, do you want to play? And I said, no, I don't think I'm ready. And then she was like, are you sure? Like, this is, you know, like a big opportunity you're passing up. And I was like, no, I'm sure. Plus I've got, you know, other commitments, so I can't really turn this one down. And she was like, okay. We're gonna have a talk about this, but like, I think you're making a bad decision. I was like, I know, but it feels right for me to say no now. So I say no. I do the choir performance, and then a year later's passed. I've released maybe 2 singles, and we were kind of expecting to get a call back to play the festival in 2016. And we never did. And that's when I felt as though, oh, maybe I'd made the wrong decision by not playing that festival. But I knew that I wasn't ready to play in 2015. I knew that the caliber of songs that I had weren't strong enough. Like, I knew that I wasn't confident enough in my ability as a stage performer. I didn't really feel as though that I was where I wanted to be vocally. So I kind of made those choices. And at the time I didn't regret them, and even when we didn't get called back the following year, I didn't regret it then, because I knew that eventually my time was coming. They would eventually, you know, send us another message and be like, hey, do you want to play this year? And that's when the following year, in 2017, they were like, you know, do you want to come back? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Because by then I'd done maybe 3 support tours. I'd released an EP. In fact, I'd released 2 EPs, and I was a much better performer on stage, and I trusted my vocal ability, and I felt as though I could hold a crowd much more. Perfect. And when I performed, I was like, this feels right. Had I done this 2 years ago, it would have gone awfully. But now that I'm here, you know, it feels like the right time and everything was going in the right place. And that's when I kind of knew that, you know, trusting my gut above everything else is always going to be the right thing for me to do.
Right.
Because people always have your best interests at heart, but at the end of the day, if it's not a decision, if it's not something that makes you happy, don't do it.
That's good advice, I think.
Yeah.
Was it around the same time then, 2017, that you kind of started thinking about this album, about Foreigner? Kind of like you say, you had to be ready for.
I've been thinking of this album since maybe 2015.
Okay.
I didn't even know what tracks I was going to have on the album, but I knew that I wanted to release an album that sounded like me and that told my story of what it was like coming from one place and evolving and adapting in another, but also telling the stories of like what I'd been through from like my early years to my teen years to adult years, from then till now, just kind of everything between, you know, losing friends, losing family, falling in love, falling out of love, you know, what was going on in the world at that time, like humanitarian causes, and feeling as though, you know, I had all these things to say and just kind of figuring out the right way to say them through the right pieces of music. So I always knew that I was going to release an album. I just didn't know when, but I knew that it was coming. So now knowing that, you know, it's only less than a month away, I'm just like, holy shit, this is legit now.
And I suppose the album's been done for a while,
yeah.
What is this in between time like?
Tricky, because I've been listening to the album since the day we stopped recording.
Okay.
I know all these songs like the back of my hand, and the closer it gets to the album drop day, the more that I just want to leak it and just put it out there and be like, you know what?
Let's get it over with.
Let's get it over with, because I've been waiting for so long to just get to that point. It kind of I know it feels like it's been 2 years since like the starting of the recording to like the finishing of the mastering, and then like announcing the singles and the title and like going on tour. But it's more so that it's been kind of 25 years in the making, because I knew that music was what I was going to do for the rest of my life from a very, very young age. I just didn't know how much of it would like kind of affect me in my older life and how much I wanted it until it was kind of a make or break decision that I was faced with. I was like, no, I don't want to, you know, work a 9 to 5 anymore and like try and do music on the side. I just want to do music. And that's when it kind of hit me to just like kind of force me to just give it a bit more effort and just, you know, really, really give it 100%.
Well, it's interesting because, what you mentioned this decision-making process to kind of go all in for music. So what did your mother think of this?
Jesus Lord. I remember the day that I said to my mum, we were having a discussion about post-secondary school education, like post-college and stuff. And she was like, oh, what university are you going to go to? And I was like, I'm not going to university. I'm going to move to London and do music full-time. She was like, eh? In my house, I was like, yeah, what do you mean? She was like, no child of mine is not going to have a proper education. I was like, well, why? She was like, because you can't make any money from music. And I was like, it's not about the money. She was like, oh my God. And she just didn't get it. But she comes from a generation of just, you know, where jobs in the arts aren't financially stable, at least. And, you know, where there's options to become doctors and lawyers and engineers and anything that's kind of more structured, that's what she always kind of tried to push me to. But at the same time, she knew how much music made me happy and how much of my life I was willing to devote to music, to the point where I was applying to go to college and study and like a culinary school, and like study cooking, like chefing full time. But I was also debating on going to a music academy. So it was like one or the other. And then eventually I just picked going to sixth form and kind of avoiding culinary school and not going to a music college and just kind of figuring it out in like sixth form. But then she was like, I can't have you living in my house without like, you know, some kind of proper education. I was like, okay, well, I'm only going to go to university if I can study music. And she was like, you know what, I'll take that. And I was like, cool. So I went to university, studied popular music performance, and then graduated with a 2-1. But whilst I was doing my university course, I was also trying to work my way into the industry slowly but surely. So I'd do, say for example, if I had 5 classes a week, maybe twice a week, I would leave my classes early to go to London and play an open mic, and then come back and be in a lecture by 9 a.m. the next day. So I'd leave my class at 4, get to the train station for 4:45, catch a train to London, be in London by 6:30, get to the bar or the venue, play at like maybe 9:30, 10, leave, go to Euston, catch the last train to Northampton, head back to my uni accommodation, and then be in lectures by 9. I do that like twice a week. Because I knew that that's eventually where I wanted to end up. So rather than trying to work my way in, start in London and work my way out. And that made more sense to me because it was just kind of building a fan base that was strong here that would eventually spread the word rather than trying to work myself in like everyone else. Because that way it kind of feels more crowded, like a kind of funneling system. If you're looking at it like this, it's only going to get smaller at the bottom, but if you're already starting inwards and working your way outwards, it spreads a larger message.
And well, it must be rewarding then that you now have that album to kind of show for it.
Yeah,
and so very quickly, what was your mother's reaction? Because I'm sure she's heard it.
She hasn't heard the album actually. It's funny because there is a song on the album called Care for Your Mother, which I wrote about her, and it was also just about all the advice that I'd wish that I'd gotten from like my dad, that other kids get from their dads, like, you know, how to properly, you know, be a man and how to put on a shirt properly and tie a tie and, you know, lace up your shoes and be presentable and just, you know, be respectful towards women and just people in general, just like how to take care of my mum and my sister. And I never kind of got that advice. So this song was just kind of like a thank you to my mum for being both my mum and my dad. So in the places where, you know, a man would normally fill those roles, she did. And then eventually I just kind of took in the kind of man of the house role. And this song is just kind of all encompassing of that. And that's the song that she's been like dying to hear the most. Like I will get a message like once every 2 weeks. She's like, when are you going to let me hear this song? I'm like, when the time is right.
Well, so why haven't you yet?
It's because the song is so personal to me and my mum. I don't want her to get offended by what the song says, because I'm not attacking her for anything that she's done. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Because it touches on quite a sore spot for us both, I don't want her to listen to it and feel as though that she didn't do as good a job raising me, because she, you know, did most of the work on her own. You know, looking after 2 kids and like holding down 2-3 jobs at a time. Like it's not an easy thing to do, but she did it because, you know, she had to. She didn't have any other choice. And to me, my mum is like superwoman. Like there isn't anything that she can't do, and that's what this song is about. It's just a thank you for being there when I kind of felt like no one else did. Like my mum is my best friend. Like she is like this wonderful woman, and I just don't want her to listen to this song and feel as though that a part of me is incomplete, because I don't feel incomplete. I don't feel as though I missed out on anything, because in the places where, you know, a man would normally fill those roles, she just did it anyways. And that's kind of taught me what I would teach to my kids when I eventually have children, just like how to love people in the way that my mum loved me, essentially. So yeah, it's just a touchy subject, but I feel as though when she listens to it, it will all kind of make sense.
It's going to be an interesting day.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I might need to wear like a protective head mask just in case, but We'll see.
She'll be all right.
Yeah, no, she'll be fine. She'll be fine.
Finally, then, because well, now the album is coming out, and what is? Do you have any hopes in the sense of how people will hear it, or in terms of what they get from it, or how they perceive it?
I hope is funny. I think I want people to take in the fact that this album isn't one continuous kind of story from like the start until finish. It's little kind of frames of moments that I've captured at different points in my life that I've put into one collection. So it's not telling a story from like age 3 up until age 10 and then age 10 to age 14. It's just little moments of my life that I've captured of my own personal story, or the stories of like the people that I've loved, that I've had around me, and also the people that aren't in my life anymore, but that I have loved before, you know, and shared memories with. So I don't want people to think that it's one whole thing, even though it is like one whole album. It's a collection of little things that if there is a song that they feel that they need, they can go to this album and find. Because that was the thing that kind of drove me into making music. There were certain messages and certain songs and certain rhythms and melodies that I wasn't hearing on the radio or seeing on the TV and music videos. I was like, so instead of waiting for someone else to make those lyrics and make those songs and those melodies, why can't I do them? And now, at this point in my career, being able to provide what I needed back then for other people makes me feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Because I've had people come up to me at shows and say, I listen to this song all the time and it's got me through this, or I found this song when I was going through like a really dark time and it really helped me get through it, or this is mine and my girlfriend's soon to be fiance's song. And I've had loads of people tell me that, you know, they played my song at their wedding, they've had their first dance to it, she walked down the aisle to this song, and I'm just like, who knew that writing all these like crappy little songs in the 4 walls of my bedroom would get me to this point where I'm now, you know, writing a full album. So yeah, this is a great space to be in for sure. And I'm just excited for people to take in the album and just tell me what they think.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Jordan, thank you very much for your
thanks,
time.
man. Thank you very much.
Thank you.